Hello, thanks very much for coming back. In today's episode we're going to be looking at the gunnels and making the knees and the risers and the breasthook. Isn't wooden boat building full of the most amazing poetry in its language? But something incredible happened today. We were visited by Trevor Jackson, and Trevor was an apprentice shipwright down the road in Teignmouth at Morgan Giles 75 years ago.
Right, this is the workforce of Morgan Giles. Most of the workforce, they're not all there. In about 1948, I'm right at the back there, the littlest tacker there. That they used to stretch me between two blokes and grow you a little bugger, grow.
Trevor, can you tell us when you started at Morgan Giles?
Yeah, I started in 1948 at the yard at the age of 15. Just left school and straight to work. I lived in Sheldon at the time, and we had a dinghy and rowed across to the yard.
What was your first job in the yard at 15?
Well, your first 6 months you're running around doing errands and getting your leg pulled and getting the tea and getting the foreman's tobacco from the shop, you know, and things like that. But
how long is an apprenticeship for?
it was a 5-year apprenticeship. When they found that you could, you know, be useful, you'd be put with a tradesman and work with a tradesman and gradually pick up your trade from, you know, one of the better tradesmen.
What was your first wage? Can you remember your first wage packet?
Not a lot, about 17 and sixpence, I think.
17 and sixpence?
Yeah. And mother had 10 shillings of that to keep you.
That left you with...
So what we're doing now is we are putting this bag over the piece of wood that we're going to use for the gunnel. We're going to steam it. It's sort of in situ really within the boat, and then hopefully we can draw it in to the curve of the boat.
Ken Collier was the draftsman there, and he would come down, set off the lines on the mould loft floor. We'd take patterns from that, pattern of the moulds. We'd build the moulds up there. When the patterns were all done, you'd take them to where you're going to build a boat, and you'd lay the keel down, set up the transom, the stem, get it prepared, start planking. Yeah, it would follow through.
How many people would have been involved in it? This is a 14'6" boat. How many people would be involved in
There would have been 2 men and an apprentice.
a boy? Like
The apprentice would be on hand to do everything that was necessary, that he could do. You'd have to hold the end of the planks up while they're cutting them,
Right, that's the sort of work I do on this job, yeah.
Yeah, and do the riveting.
Yeah.
Yeah, your job, yeah.
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 I do the unskilled work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would you have worked on a boat like this?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for a long time, yeah. How do they teach you? With example, really, and you gradually take over little jobs as you're capable, But they don't remember being put under a terrific amount of pressure. You were really willing to learn, and. Well, a lot of oak timbers, oak stem, oak stern knee, oak quarter knees and breasthooks, thwart knees, mahogany planking usually. We would usually put a coat of half and half varnish on before it left us, and then the painters would take over and finish the varnish work. We'd be on another job by then. Around that time we were just beginning to go over to fiberglass. We used to laugh sometimes because you'd spent 5 years doing a trade.
Yeah.
And the youngster comes into the job and with a brush and a bucket of resin, you know, and he calls himself a shipwright. But you know, that's what it did. Yeah.
Has it ever struck you, Trevor, that your skill and your apprenticeship, you must have been one of the last people
Yes,
an apprenticeship just
yes, I would have been pretty well one of the last in traditional work. Yeah. Yes, it was. A couple of years later, you wouldn't have done it. I was always interested in building my own boats, you know, and so the interest is there. But, and Saturday morning, you'd finish work at about 12 o'clock. If the tide was right, I'd dash off and go fishing. That's one I made, my son's got it now. I made another one for my nephew. There's several of them around. And that's the one that's in Tim's Museum. That's a model of a 12-foot rowing dinghy, Morgan Giles design.
You may remember the oak that we used for the keel way back in episode 1. It was 90 years old. It was probably planted about the same time that Trevor was born. So some people have commented, probably quite rightly, that when I plant trees and oaks, it's going to be an awful long time before I can start to use them. And of course there's a lot of truth in that, and really it's about future generations of boat builders and woodworkers. However, it might not take as long to grow a useful tree as you might think. So I'm standing now underneath a sweet chestnut, which I planted about 35 years ago. Even at 35 years old, the trunk is already quite thick and quite a reasonable size. As it's grown, I've pared off and cut off any branches that have appeared. So actually there's now about between 8 and 9 feet of good straight grain timber. And at some point it's going to have to be chopped down because it is a tree that's far too big for my garden, but When it is, we shall use this lovely straight grain timber probably for timbers, for ribs of maybe the next boat or the boat afterwards. Particularly this time of year, the tree gives an awful lot of chestnuts. And usually I collect these chestnuts and plant them in Martin's woodland. And already we must have planted from this single tree anything up to 150 saplings. You can see here that there are a whole load of saplings which are already getting a bit too big. I think they've been here 2 years, and they're going to be dug up and they're going to be taken up to Martin's woods. It's also worth having a look and seeing how the oaks are getting on. They'd had a summer of growing. They'll soon be losing their leaves, and around about Christmas time to New Year we'll dig these up and plant these in Martin's woodland.
It brings back a lot of memories, I tell you, when you see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good men there.
Isn't it incredible to think that Trevor is in a tradition of wooden boat building that has been passed down from generation to generation and stretches back to the time of the Saxons and the Vikings and probably even further. Next time, we're going to be scratching our heads and trying to work out how to do the center plate casing. And we're also going to be making an absolutely fascinating and very exciting discovery. So thanks very much for watching, and thanks also for the comments and encouragement that you've been giving us. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video.